Welcome to episode 6 of Randall Vision. I am your host, Randall. In today's episode, I'm going to speak about Solipsism. Now, Solipsism isn't a term that I was all that familiar with until I came across David Foster Wallace, and I'm not sure if it was in an interview or maybe the preface. I haven't really read any of his works. I'm trying to read Infinite Jest. I've owned a copy for, a couple years, and I'm less than 200 pages into it, and it's quite a thick one, so we'll see how many years more it takes me to complete reading that book, but I think that's on the list. It's required reading for being a smarty pants. So that's why I'm taking a stab at reading it. But in the interview or introduction, like I said, I'm not sure where I heard Mr. Wallace talk about Solipsism, but he identified it as one of the greatest dangers for an individual to fall into. And I think whenever I found the definition and took it in for the first time, I'm like, oh shit, that's me, huh? So the definition of Solipsism off the top of my head is the belief that the only thing that an individual can be certain of is their own existence. That we're incapable of confirming if there's any reality outside the bounds of our own thought. And I felt that way for a very long time. And it was also kind of reinforced by, I don't know if reinforced is the right word, but one of my favorite philosophers, Arthur Schopenhauer, laid out in his beautiful works, The World is Idea and the World is Will, parts 1 and 2, that the world that we experience 100% is bound by thought. There is nothing that you experience outside the bounds of thought. And we have no way to verify that. So that doesn't make sense to a lot of people, because you're like, well, I could see the objects in this room. I could touch the walls. I could touch the floor. I see these things, so they exist in reality. And that's not how that works. We, are, through the scientific method, we kind of agree that our sensory organs take in sensory data, and our mind, through the act of perception, creates the world around us. So this touches into the observer-created universe, and we're opening a whole bag of pitfalls here. So what am I even talking about? As a smarty pants, I ascribe to that it, to me, it's a fact that it's impossible to verify anything outside the bounds of your existence or your own thought, not even your own existence, that I'm 100% wrapped up in my own thought, and I have no way to verify anything beyond that. And that's something that I'm pretty sure I've come to terms with, that it's a fact that I cannot verify anything outside the bounds of my own thought. But as being a smarty pants, I am now aware that there are things that I don't know, or I have become aware of things that are outside the bounds of explanation. Like there are things that are ineffable, and I am certain that they exist. So to take a leap of faith from remaining factual and branching out my map or conceptualization of what I believe reality to be, it is an alignment with that other people exist. And it may seem bizarre or narcissistic that somebody can make it to my age without believing that other people exist. Like that's weird. That's probably not most people's experience. I would assume, particularly people that are in touch with their emotions, more readily accept that other people exist. Like I'm not a very compassionate person, particularly on a individual level, and particularly in the past. I was always able to be kind of cold or distant, but paradoxically, the way I believed in the past, and to this day, hold a great deal of compassion for the masses or people in general. And it's fucked up. That's not a good way to be, and I'm trying to change that. That I am taking steps to become more in touch with my emotions, and taking steps towards being more compassionate. So being solipsistic is a dark place. It's a lonely place. And, I don't need to be an island anymore. I could ask people for help. I could rely on people. I'm not saying that I've never done those things or whatever, but it used to be out of necessity, and it would be nice if I'm able to humanize people. Like, saying it out loud makes it sound silly, but like looking at people as if they're people instead of a figment of my imagination. And with the topics that I've already covered, if you're following along sequentially, it should make sense that what I'm saying now is kind of a conclusion, that it's building upon those things that pretending that I'm the only person because that's the only person that I know for a fact exists. Like I'm becoming far more comfortable with embracing ideas that are outside the bounds of that. So I think that brings us to the end of this episode here. Remember, you're a sovereign individual. Do what thou wilt.